Egyptians have taken to the streets of Cairo to demand an end to military rule. Protesters are calling for a million-man march later today. They accuse the army of stealing the revolution that ousted Hosni Mobarak. Egypt's generals took power after he stood down in February. Now, the military-backed cabinet has offered to quit over clashes that have killed at least 26 people and wounded some 1,700 since Saturday. Our demands are as follows. 1. Reform the constitution. 2. That the cabinet steps down. And 3. A civil democratic government. The army is still to decide whether to accept the cabinet's resignation. It was criticised by Amnesty International yesterday for failing to live up to its promises to protect human rights, and in some cases even exceeding the abuses of the previous regime. Medics in Cairo say police have used rubber bullets and tear gas to quell the unrest. The fresh demonstrations began at the weekend after the army unveiled principles for a draft constitution that, if enacted, would have shielded it from scrutiny. Parliamentary elections begin next Monday and are set to end by March. The next presidential poll could be held as late as 2013.
News the cabinet wanted to resign soon filtered through the crowds in Tahrir Square, but anger over military rule appears to have focused on calls for the head of the Army Council to go, more than the politicians. The most important thing is the resignation of General Marshal Tantawi and all the members of the military council, then the resignation of the government. It was a useless government. The General Marshal should resign. We're bored with this situation. The army's responsible for all our current problems. But the turmoil within the government, which has been in office since March, is being seen as a major blow to the military council's authority. Tunisia's new Prime Minister is to be Hamadi Jabali, Secretary General of the Islamist Hanna party, which won the country's first democratic election. Failure to win an outright majority has meant a sharing of the top jobs with two secularist parties. Their leaders, Monsef Marzouki, will take the largely ceremonial position of president, while Mustafa Ben Jafar will become Speaker of the Assembly, which has the task of drafting a new constitution. The three-way coalition has also committed itself to holding fresh elections within a year. Being the birthplace of the Arab Spring uprisings, Tunisia is being closely watched by the likes of Libya and Egypt as to how the new political era develops. Syrian opposition groups have been welcomed in London for talks with Britain's Foreign Secretary as international pressure increases on the Assad regime. The talks follow the expiry of an Arab League deadline for President Bashar al-Assad to stop his repression of protesters.
I have, of course, expressed the view we've held since the summer that the Assad regime should go, and that is the best thing for the future of Syria. But I've also emphasised the importance to them of achieving a united platform and a unified body among the opposition.
Turkey is a robust critic of its neighbour, and despite previously cordial ties with Assad, is now considering sanctions over the rising death toll among protesters. Talking at a conference in Istanbul, Turkey's Prime Minister said, if you believe in yourself, you call for elections, and if those ballot boxes take you to power, then you can rule the country. But you can remain in power with tanks and cannons only up to a certain point. Erdogan's remarks came amid reports that gunmen opened fire on a convoy of Turkish buses carrying pilgrims to Syria. Unconfirmed witness accounts claim the attackers were Syrian soldiers.
The US Congressional Committee has failed to agree on how to cut $1.2 trillion, or 900 billion euros, from the country's budget deficit over the next decade. Their inability to reach a deal means automatic across-the-board cuts will kick in from 2013. One US senator who sat on the 12-member debt reduction panel said it had now abandoned its efforts.
First of all, we had an opportunity to be able to show the world that the Congress of the United States knows how to govern. And we had an opportunity to prove at a time that Europe is in a particularly fragile economic situation, that we were ready to show the way forward and even as we did so, to make America a safe haven for investment and for money.
The three major rating agencies said there'd be no downgrade on US debt, at least for the time being. Moody's says it won't lower its